Hello there, welcome to part 6 in my 10 minutes at the piano playlist. If you haven't seen parts 1 to 5, do go back and have a watch of those, just to keep everything in a nice order for you, because one video leads from the next. This video, what we're going to do is use and abuse the piano. We're going to treat it not as a musical instrument, but as a tool for finger independence. In the previous video, we looked at the major and minor triads, putting them into a rhythm, and using the 1, 4 and 5 chord progression, which is very popular, and of course I won't go over that again. But in this one it's going to be less musical and more about what your fingers can do in a way. I know there's already a video called What Your Fingers Can Do, but that was based on chords, and it was a bit more musical with minors and going up the piano, all that kind of stuff. But in this one I want it to be unmusical and purely about you discovering what your fingers can naturally do. So, having done a few flexing exercises, I do this every day, and I really do. I'm not just saying that for the video. I do maybe 100 minimum. I do a full hand flex where I stretch without pain. Let me get it at a right angle. I put my hands like this, and then I close them into a fist, open, but I'm not hurting myself. I'm just doing this. I'm not rushing, and I do this maybe 100 times, just when I'm making a cup of tea or something like this. And it's good. And once I've done that, a little shake just to relax them a bit, and then a bit later, for the next cup of tea, I am English after all, I might do the same thing but curling the fingers one at a time. So I'll bring the index down to the little finger and then wrap my thumb around like this. So once you've kind of done things like that, no need to do it fast, but I do this at least 100 times for both of those exercises every day, so I have a nice kind of finger flexibility. What you want to do is go to the piano, pick any note, and it seems logical to go through all of the 12 major scales, so we will start on the musical C and go up grammatically to the B. And what you're going to do is this is just one recommendation, but you can create your own, is to take the first and the third, and then going through all 12 keys, and then do the same thing, which I'm going to explain, with the first and the minor, which you now know, and discover what your fingers naturally do. This is an introduction to honestly learning and recognizing the fact that your fingers don't need your conscious mind to be involved. Article here and in the description on conscious interference. Very basically, without wasting too much time, if you're focusing on one conversation, you can, and I mean properly focusing on it, not being distracted by thoughts, but someone's talking like me and you're, I hope, listening 100%. But if you had another video open next to me, or someone's talking to you in the room, you'll only be catching about 50-50 of both conversations. And then if you had a third person, it would drop down to about a third, and then a fourth person down to a quarter of the content of each speaker. So the more that your conscious mind is trying to catch hold of things, the less you actually catch hold of. And it's the same for playing the piano. You've got your pedal doing things, you may be sight reading, you have chord progressions to remember, you may be having to think about what major scale you're in, the next melody, the chord shapes, the dynamics, which is loud and soft, many different things. And you need to get to a point where you transcend that, so that it all comes completely naturally, and that simply comes from working on each small bit and perfecting it. That's why we lay one brick at a time to build a house. You don't just drop a house and there it is. One of my favourite sentences is, the man on the top of the mountain didn't fall there. Think about that. The man on the top of the mountain did not fall there. So what we want to do is to allow your fingers, let's just start with the little finger in the left hand and the thumb on the right hand, and do the major third interval, C to E, and just see which fingers in your left hand and your right hand work with your little finger and your thumb. So for me in the left hand, it's my middle finger playing the E, and in my right hand too. Now if I force my left hand to play with my ring finger, it feels very unnatural. I can do it, but it feels quite unnatural. but there's no reason to not do that anyway as an exercise. But I want you to allow your fingers to do what is natural first. So in my right hand, I have to force myself to use my index finger here. It doesn't mean I cannot, but I have to force that to happen in this exercise. But naturally, when I just don't think about it, the same kind of two fingers without the one in the middle are doing that interval. And it's quite nice to do that, and you just get used to doing that without thinking about it. I'm talking, I'm looking out the window, I'm looking at the video, I'm not thinking about my fingers at all. You can do some little rhythms. Just to get them, really moving a little bit. I like the analogy of an army and a battle. You don't want to train your soldiers, let's say we have 10 soldiers in our small army, yet powerful. You don't want to have all of them being able to do different things. You want them all to be the same ability, and you also will not train them in the battle, you'll train them before the battle. So what we are doing basically is training our 10 soldiers and using this piano as a training battlefield before we start to take on pieces. So there may come a time where you're learning a Chopin, a Liszt, a Beethoven piece, which does happen to require you to do something like this in either hand. But because you've already spent months and months and weeks, whatever, training your fingers, your soldiers, when you come to that in the actual music, in the actual battle, it will be a very, very natural thing to do, and you won't really need to think about it. By doing this, I'm going to talk about this in a bit more detail with different exercises, but by applying this philosophy to your studies now in the beginning, you will have such a strong foundation that your progress will be incomparable to other people who are following a very limiting, restricting book, method book. One of my sentences is, methods are for some, philosophy is for all. So you may find a method book which works for you, but I see many comments and many questions from teachers and students online where they say, oh, such and such doesn't like this method anymore, can you recommend another one? Or a student may say, I tried that method, it doesn't work for me, but this method does work for me. That's my point. There's not one method that works for everybody, because everybody's approach, hand shape, style, intentions are all different. So don't get caught up in methods. Allow your fingers and your mind and your natural internal piano to just do what it does. Allow it to flow. Don't be afraid, and you will make much more rapid progress. So, with that in mind, allow your fingers to find what they do naturally, because they really will. So I was doing this with the C and E. So what would happen on the minor? See, I use the same fingers for that. If I have to use these fingers, I can, but it's not very natural for me. So let's go to E. We find the third, the G sharp. Now look at that, isn't that strange? My right hand wants to, I didn't think about that because I was talking, I wasn't even looking at my fingers. My left hand plays the, and I'm happy that's happened because I can demonstrate my point more naturally here. I'm playing finger, the leftmost, I hate naming fingers as numbers. I'm playing my little finger and my thumb. But my left hand is playing the G sharp with my middle finger, but my right hand is playing the G sharp with my index finger, G sharp. Sharps go up, flats go down. Now that's strange. If I have to use my middle finger on the right hand here, I mean, again, I can, but it feels a bit strange. My index finger's kind of sulking, like move out the way. I want to play this note. It's something beyond my conscious control. So again, you want to apply that philosophy to your whole exercising regime, but exercises in a non-musical way. There's nothing musical about doing this. This is just my eyes are closed and I'm allowing my fingers to naturally do what they do. So I've just given you an example in majors and minors. I do the same thing with a minor here in E, but do it with different intervals up to a seventh. So I'll just do it from C. So you might play, let's do a fifth interval, C to G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for my fifths, well, I'm just seeing what happens naturally here. See, my right hand plays the G with the ring finger, left hand plays it with the thumb, not the index finger. So what I'd like you to do is to go through all 12 keys, and alternate between majors and minors first, and then with fourths and fifths and flat and fifths. You can go through all the notes like this, all of the notes, and just allow your fingers to find their natural way to play all of those intervals. Start first of all in the major scale and then play any of the in-between notes as you wish. That should give you a few weeks of playing and discovering what your fingers can already do, because you already have the ability within you. Just believe me, and it will come out on its own accord. Thank you very much for watching. See you in part 7. Likes, comments, subscriptions, always welcome. And have a look at my blog. All the best. Bye for now.